You wake up to the same alarm, the same commute, the same endless cycle. You've been told your whole life that hard work is a virtue, that loyalty is its own reward, and that if you just keep your head down and grind, the system will eventually notice you. It's a beautiful story, a soothing lullaby told to us from childhood, a myth that gives meaning to every aching muscle and every late night. But there is a question, a dangerous question, hiding just beneath the surface of that promise. An uncomfortable truth that once you see it, you can never unsee it. And the question is this: why do the hardest workers often earn the least? Pause. Let that sink in. Think about it. The nurse, on her feet for 12 hours straight, a human lifeline, racing between patients, missing meals and holidays. The construction worker, waking before the sun, laboring until his back aches, building the very foundation of our world. The physical world we all live in. The janitor, the bus driver, the factory worker, they are the silent, indispensable engine of society. And yet, they live paycheck to paycheck. They worry about rent. They can't afford to get sick. Meanwhile, someone films a get-rich-quick video in a rented Lamborghini and earns more in a day than that nurse earns in a month. Something is wrong here. This isn't a rare glitch in the system. This is the system. And if you've ever felt this deep, gut-wrenching unfairness, if you've ever wondered why your sacrifice, your honesty, your moral labor hasn't led to the life you were promised, then you've just taken your first step into the shadows. This is a story about a lie, a powerful, insidious lie that has been sold to you, to us all for centuries. It's a lie that uses our sense of virtue, our desire to be a good person, against us. It teaches us that suffering is noble, that endurance is honorable, that to serve quietly without complaint is the sign of a moral backbone. And in many ways, it is. But morality does not pay the bills. Praise does not build wealth. Sacrifice does not automatically translate into power. And so we are left with a brutal contradiction, a paradox hiding in plain sight. If hard work leads to success, then why do the hardest working people in society so often struggle just to survive? The answer is both simple and utterly terrifying, because while labor builds the world, labor does not control it. The people who earn the most, the CEOs, the hedge fund managers, the politicians, the thought leaders, they don't sweat in the heat. They don't push physical limits. They operate in a different domain entirely, the domain of leverage, of perception, of control. They don't just work, they position, they influence, they own. This isn't an accident. We have built a world where value isn't rewarded based on effort, but based on power. A world where controlling capital, networks, and narratives pays far more than producing anything tangible, and that world is by design. Physical labor, no matter how honest, can be replaced, it can be automated, it can be outsourced, but control over resources, over people, over ideas, that is scalable. The nurse can only treat one patient at a time. The investor can move billions with a single click, and the system favors scale. The lie of moral labor is especially cruel because it praises our suffering while funneling the rewards elsewhere. We are told to keep our heads down and be grateful, while those at the top are trained in strategy, in law, in manipulation, in capital acquisition. They are taught not to serve, but to manage, not to endure, but to dominate. They learn the rules, and then they learn how to rewrite them. This is what the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche was talking about when he shattered illusions and exposed the hidden architecture of human belief. He wrote that moral labor, the kind of work glorified for its sacrifice, obedience, and humility, is not noble. It is a form of spiritual slavery, a psychological trap designed not to uplift you, but to keep you in place. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. In a world where power determines outcomes, morality is often used to control those who have none. You were taught to believe that virtue is its own reward, that if you just kept your head down and stayed good, life would eventually be fair. But life isn't fair. Life is competitive. Life is political. And the system you serve doesn't reward virtue. It rewards value, not the value you create, but the value you control. You're not crazy if you feel stuck despite doing everything right. You're waking up. You're beginning to see that the world isn't malfunctioning. It's functioning exactly as it was built to. The people who rise aren't always the most skilled or the most selfless. They are the ones who understand power, how to navigate it, how to claim it, and how to detach their worth from whether or not the system approves. So ask yourself, what if working harder is not the answer? What if the belief in moral labor is not your salvation, but your cage? Don't just listen. Subscribe to the channel and join us as we continue to expose these deep truths, one revelation at a time. And that belief that suffering is somehow sacred is not a modern invention. It is woven deep into the fabric of human history, a thread that runs through countless myths and moral teachings. It's the story of the quiet servant, the uncomplaining martyr, the humble hero who accepts their fate with grace. This is the essence of slave morality, a belief system that Nietzsche, a man who saw the world for what it was, not what we wished it to be, dissected with cold, unflinching precision. This moral code, he argued, was born not from strength, but from weakness. It was created by those who, unable to compete on the battlefield of power or capital or influence, sought a way to find dignity in their powerlessness. So they redefined the rules of the game. They declared that humility was superior to strength, that obedience was nobler than dominance, that suffering was not a sign of defeat, but of moral purity. It's a brilliant strategy, really, a psychological masterstroke. Because once this moral code becomes sacred, once it is no longer seen as a strategy for survival, but as an absolute truth, it becomes a powerful sedative. It gives meaning to pain. It allows people to endure unfairness without confronting it. You can see this playing out in the stories we tell ourselves, the lessons we are taught from the cradle. Think about the biblical tale of Job, a righteous man who suffers unimaginable loss and yet refuses to curse God. He remains faithful and is eventually rewarded. The lesson is clear. Endure your suffering, maintain your virtue, and a higher power will eventually reward you. Or consider the countless parables in Buddhist teachings that emphasize detachment from desire and the nobility of accepting one's suffering as part of the human condition. In Islamic tradition, there is the concept of sabr, a deep patience and perseverance in the face of hardship. It is a powerful virtue, and in many ways a beautiful one. But Nietzsche would ask a different question. He would look at these moral systems and ask, cui bono? Who benefits? He would suggest that these narratives, while offering comfort to the suffering, also serve to pacify them. They train us to look inward for solace, to find virtue in our pain, rather than to look outward at the systems that caused it. They teach us to be patient, to be obedient, to endure, and in doing so, they keep us from asking the most dangerous question of all, why am I suffering and who benefits from my loyalty? This is the central psychological trap of the lie of moral labor. It's not just an economic issue, it's a deeply ingrained belief, what psychologists call the just world fallacy. The idea that the world is inherently fair, that effort equals outcome, that what you give will always come back to you. It's a beautiful, comforting idea, but it's not true. And clinging to it, especially in a system designed to reward power over principle, isn't just naive. It's dangerous, because while you're working late, double-checking spreadsheets, fixing problems you didn't cause, someone else is learning how to play the board. While you're saying yes, being polite, taking on the extra shift, someone else is building alliances, studying leverage, understanding exactly how to make the system work for them. You believe you're being moral, they're being strategic, and in this world, strategy wins. Think about it. The hospital's PR budget doubles, while the nurse's weekend bonus is cut. The reputation advisor with political connections gets promoted, while the engineer who keeps the servers running gets laid off. You've been taught to trust the ladder, to climb it step by step. They were taught how to skip steps, how to build their own. The system doesn't just fail to reward hard work, it uses your belief in fairness to keep you locked in place. The longer you wait for your virtue to be noticed, the easier you are to control. Because people who believe in justice don't rebel. They don't demand more. They keep waiting for recognition, for fairness, for someday. But someday never comes. This isn't just about money. It's about mindset, about understanding that if you keep showing up with the wrong map, you'll never reach the right destination. The rules you were taught were designed to produce good workers, not powerful people. Because the people who taught them to you, they understood the game. They just needed someone else to keep playing it. So if the world isn't fair, if virtue doesn't lead to victory, then what does? And more importantly, are you willing to unlearn the lie you were raised to believe? If this feels familiar, if you've ever felt the sting of this truth, share your story in the comments below. Let us know what you've experienced and what you've learned. And for more deep, soul shaking truths, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. The journey continues. And once you've seen the lie, once you realize that waiting to be rewarded for your obedience is a dead end, what's next? You don't throw away your morals. You don't become heartless. That's the mistake many people make when they first wake up. They think the only alternative to being exploited is becoming a cynical player, a ruthless manipulator. But Nietzsche didn't preach cruelty. He wasn't telling you to abandon your integrity. He was telling you to stop confusing submission with virtue. His solution wasn't to destroy morality, but to overcome the morality of weakness, to become something more. He called this a kind of rebirth, a transformation into the Übermensch, the overman. Not a tyrant, not a villain, but a fully realized individual, a creator of values, someone who walks away from systems that no longer serve them and builds something better in their place. The Übermensch doesn't sit quietly hoping to be seen. He defines his own meaning. He doesn't wait to be promoted. He creates impact on his own terms. He understands the system, but isn't enslaved by it. He knows when to play the game and when to change the board. He understands that power isn't evil. It's necessary. Not power over others, but power over yourself, your direction, your destiny. You've seen these people in real life. The entrepreneur who walked away from a stable job to build something bold. The artist who turned rejection into innovation. The builder who stopped asking for permission and started taking risks. Think about Elon Musk, fired from the company he helped create, dismissed by others as reckless, until he built an empire on vision, conviction, and the refusal to be ruled by fear. What separates these people isn't just talent or luck, it's mindset. They didn't wait for the system to validate them. They stopped asking, when will they see my worth? And started asking, why am I giving them that power in the first place? That shift from waiting to creating, from submitting to owning, that's the path Nietzsche pointed to. That's what it means to step out of the cage of moral labor. But here's the hard truth. Escaping that cage means letting go of something deeply, deeply comfortable. Your attachment to being seen as a good person in the eyes of a system that benefits from your quiet servitude. It means being willing to disappoint people who benefit from your silence. It means being willing to stand alone for a time while you build a new foundation. That takes more than confidence. It takes courage. Because true strength isn't about domination. It's about authorship, about writing a life that aligns with your deepest values. Not the values handed to you by a system designed to keep you docile. This isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming sovereign. So ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped waiting to be rewarded and started rewarding yourself with the life you actually want? What would it look like to stop asking for a seat at the table and start building your own? You don't have to become ruthless, but you do have to become responsible for your own power. Because once you realize the system won't save you, the only path forward is to stop being a servant of it and start becoming the author of something greater. So what does action look like after the awakening? It starts with a simple yet profound understanding. Kindness is not weakness, but strategic kindness. That's strength. Too often, people confuse being good with being passive. They think saying yes, avoiding conflict, and putting others first makes them virtuous. But morality without consciousness is just obedience in disguise. The goal is not to become cold or manipulative, it's to become conscious, to learn how to move through the world with both a moral compass and a survival strategy. Strategic kindness means knowing when to help and when to walk away. It means reading people, not just trusting them. It means understanding context, when to speak, when to stay silent, when to strike. It means you don't say yes to everyone just to be liked. You say yes when it aligns with your goals, your truth, your strength. Because here's the thing, not every job deserves your loyalty. Not every leader deserves your trust. Not every opportunity deserves your time. You must become the kind of person who knows when a situation is no longer serving you and has the strength to leave. Leaving is not failure. Sometimes it's the beginning of freedom. This is where power comes in, not as something you take from others, but something you claim for yourself. Power to create, power to say no, power to build systems where you're not just earning, you're owning, where your energy doesn't just fuel someone else's machine, it fuels a mission that reflects your values. That might mean starting your own business or building a secondary income stream or learning how influence works, not to deceive, but to defend your vision. It might mean learning negotiation, setting boundaries, saying, I won't do this anymore, and meaning it. These are not betrayals of your morals. These are expressions of your maturity. Because the truth is, if you don't learn how to play the power game, you will always be a pawn in it. But if you do learn, you don't have to lose your soul in the process. The key is to use power as a tool, not a trophy. Let your ethics guide your direction, but let strategy carry your decisions. Nietzsche put it simply, power is not evil. It's the will to become more than a servant, more than a cog, more than just the good employee. It's the will to become the author of your own worth. And you can't do that if you treat morality as a cage. You have to treat it as a compass, one that points to your north, not someone else's approval. So no, don't throw away your principles, but do learn how the game is played. Do understand leverage. Do recognize when you're being used and when you're being seen, because the future doesn't belong to the obedient. It belongs to the clear, the conscious, the ones who merge principle with power, empathy with edge, not the ones who wait for the world to change, but the ones who learn to change the terms of their own existence. If you're tired of waiting, if you're done with the myth that sacrifice is enough, if you're ready to think deeper, act smarter, and live on your own terms, this is where it begins. Subscribe to discover the kind of philosophy that doesn't just explain the world, but gives you the tools to reshape your place in it, one idea at a time, one decision at a time.